how we dealt with the messianic prophecies of Moses and the Psalms. The result for the Jesus Christ of Christianity had been just as he failed all tests, including those on the writings of Moses, the Psalms, and the prophets. Here we highlight a text that has been hidden for a long time and which you'll never hear preached in churches because Christianity and its leaders wouldn't dare without imploding their anti-biblical gospel. And this text is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 1 and 2, especially verse 2. The gospel, says Paul, of which I preach to you, and by which you are saved.
If you
Keep it as it is. Otherwise, you would have believed in vain. Here I go again. The gospel which I proclaim to you, by which you are saved. SI. The SI has been zapped. The if has been swept aside. The if is conspicuously ignored. But it says, if you keep it as it is, and the penalty is radical. Otherwise, you would have believed in vain. I don't think it's a mood swing on Paul's part. Because the Apostle John, the last apostle to leave this earth after all his companions had been massacred, said, similarly, in 2 John chapter 1, verses 7 to 11, what does verse 7 say? Many seducers have entered the world who do not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. Whoever is such is the Antichrist. Verse 9, whoever goes beyond and does not remain in the holy doctrine, in this holy doctrine of Jesus Christ come in the flesh, does not have God. But he who abides in this holy doctrine has the Son and the Father. When Scripture tells you that you don't have God, you may well gloss over, strut, show off. Proudly, it is written. We are nothing compared to the authority of Christ. Everyone must keep their wits about them and rediscover the fear of God. Everyone needs to understand that the supreme standard is, it is written, that our erroneous beliefs in salvation by works preached by Christianity for 15 centuries until the coming of Martin Luther did not prompt God to change his word one iota. That the errors and lies we've been taught about adoption, spiritual conception, and the virgin birth do not commit God to anything. Imperturbably, God for his part tells us in Isaiah 66:2. That's who I'll focus on, is the one who fears my word. So he expects us to fear his word. If instead of being Bereans, we come to him and say, but you'd better pay attention to what we believe or the circumstances by which we're seduced. No use. God has already answered in advance in Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Therefore, being ignorant does not exempt you from death. Ignorance is not an acceptable excuse in the eyes of God. Speaking of unacceptable excuses, it so happens that the true Christ spoke of it in John 15:22, which I'm happy to share with you in substance. If I had not come among them, and if I had not spoken, they would not have sinned. Now they have no excuse for their sin. John chapter 15, verse 22. In the same vein, John 12:48 informs you, he who rejects me, and whoever does not receive my word already has his judge. The word that I have spoken to you, that I speak to you, that will judge you the last day. John chapter 12, verse 48. Allow me at this point to end this presentation with a certain sadness. Extremely serious, since in my thoughts, in my heart, in my mind, a parade of lost hopes, disappointed enthusiasms. The illusions of the gnashing of teeth on Judgment Day pass by. Matthew 23:13 says something terrifying. And this is what frightens me at this moment. We read, I give it to you, Matthew 23:13. Woe to you, scribes and hypocritical Pharisees, for you close to men, the kingdom of heaven. You yourselves do not enter it, and you do not let in those who would. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, woe betide you, Christian leaders, woe betide you, apostle, woe betide you, pastor, woe betide you, evangelist, woe betide you, doctor, woe betide you, priest, woe betide you, clergy of whatever name and glory you arrogate to yourselves, of whatever power you claim, whatever your reputation may be, of whatever greatness. You boast, know this well, you've closed to this generation, to humanity, the kingdom of heaven. You yourselves have not entered it, and you won't let in those who wish to enter. How many men, how many brothers, how many sisters have left this earth with only your preaching about false Christ, the antichrist of your Christian gospel? How many millions of souls to have left the earth? How many souls have you failed to save? How many false promises of salvation have you delivered so far? How many more do you intend to deliver? What will you say when the time comes? When those who have trusted you, when those who have become your disciples, when those you have deceived in good faith or through ignorance, it doesn't matter at all. And what will you say to them when the time comes? When they are no longer on earth and have left with the illusion of having known the true Christ? Do you measure the weight, the catastrophe, the tragedy of standing up and promote the Jesus Christ of Christianity? I'm going to repeat for us 1 Corinthians 15 verses 1 and 2. The gospel, says Paul, which I preach to you, by which you are saved, if you keep it as it is. Otherwise, you would have believed in empty cause. How many people have believed in vain? By believing your gospel about the Jesus Christ of Christianity, how many people have you sent to perdition?